So what I'd like you to do is to grab a calculator, and I sort of model this for how I do my stuff. I put the equipment over here. You go get it. When you're done, you put it back. And so everybody grab a calculator, or you can send one person up from your table to do that. There is a CD key that's required for you to initiate the software for full licensing. So you can just, with the 90-day, install it. It may say, do you want to update or whatever. And then when you get the software CD key, you don't have to reinstall anything. You just have to, when you open it up, it says, do you want to continue the 90 days or you want to do it for real? And then you say, do it for real when you get the number, and then type it in. You also have to sort of activate it online. So if you're not online when you do it, you may have to call TI, and they'll have to type in some numbers. But most computers that are in schools nowadays are online. Okay, so this is an older version of the teacher software, the 2.0, which is probably what you have in your packet. And so as soon as I get it, it's going to probably prompt me, do I want to upgrade? There's not that much difference between the 2.0 and the 2.1, so I probably won't take class time to do this. And just in case you're wondering, I don't take class time to install software unless I'm teaching them how to install software. So I would have done this before. And we believe in our heart that this has actually been done before, but no evidence. So anyway, what I want to do is to show you this image that I just saved. What I would like is to show you like the keys on the calculator, and I can do that with the software, but it's not installed, and they don't want me to use my computer, which has it installed, so I can't do anything now except to say that somewhere around there's some buttons that you would press. Okay. So there is an on button, so if you can find that, then you're on. And when you're on, you'll see different things. I'm getting this, I'm denied here. I don't know if guest users have rights, but maybe that's something else. And this is saying that it can't verify my license, so it's okay. And so this is the screen that pops up that if you install your software, it'll pop up every time, but that 90 days will get less and less and less unless they programmed it backwards, and it gets more and more and more. If it does, then you don't have to worry. Okay. So what you'll do is when you get the CD key, you'll do this part, but otherwise you just continue with the 90-day license. And then, yeah, I guess I will. And then it says, where do you want to save your stuff? And so I choose my documents as a place where I'd save my stuff. And, of course, that means something. That means that in my documents is where your stuff is. And then it says, hey, there's a newer version. Do you want to go get it? And I'll say, no, not right now. But it's turned on in such a way that every time you'd open it up, it would go to the internets and check. And we say it goes to Dallas, but, like, it's in Dallas. So, in Arkansas, we say it goes to Dallas and checks. Okay. Anyway, and then because I don't have any handhelds physically plugged in, it's not picking them up. And so I'll close that. And so with my calculator, I have this. And so you have something similar to that, so you can sort of see that. I can do some stuff to make it a little bit bigger. And that's a decapitated calculator, but I could show you the full thing. And that just makes this part smaller. But the kids kind of like this because you get the screen on the calculator and then you get a big view of what the calculator says. And then with the smartboard, you can just have this, and then this sort of floats around. So you can have this calculator if you're doing other things. Okay, for our purposes, we're trying to figure out how to use the handheld. So this is the view I prefer, and if you want me to change to the other one for the video or the other, just let me know. So if you press escape, if there's any kind of thing that's bothering you, then you get where you get. And house is a key that is your friend. Now, you have a touchpad on this calculator. There may be older calculators around that don't have it, And this software actually allows you to use the old calculator with the new software on it.
Is the house key?
No, the house is over to the upper right-hand corner. It looks like a house. Okay. Some people call it home, but I really like house. And the software on the calculators, whether the old hardware or the new hardware, works the same, but there are some key differences. That is, there's keys on this pad that aren't on the other pad. So you can do everything on both. It's just like, how do you do it? And the common way is common for both, but one calculator has one way and one has the other. So let me show you a little PowerPoint here that is on the website that will help you get started if we can figure out how to do PowerPoints. I think we had enough work on that before, so we know. And you notice that I don't do this over there. I do it over here because I don't have one of these, and I just don't think about that. But I generally don't turn my back to the kids. Okay, so here's the keypad that you're looking at. This is a cast version, I think, as opposed to a regular flavor. And the difference here externally is just the color of the buttons. Okay? But I'm colorblind anyway, so if I say press the yellow key, it's probably the green key anyway, and so it wouldn't matter. Okay, so we've already talked about the touchpad, and sometimes you have to click it a little bit to get your mouse alive. Sometimes it goes to sleep, and then you can just sort of scrape across and move your mouse to different places. Okay, so depending on where you are, if you're on the home screen, then you can move your mouse to point at different things. And if essentially, just like a mouse, if you can point at it, you can click and make it become a real thing. So the click is the center point, although in the settings you can actually make click a bigger part. So when I say click, I mean that little center piece. Okay. And then there's house. If you're in trouble, hit escape and house. Sometimes house works, but if you're really in trouble, you probably have to hit escape. Okay. There is Control C, Control V, Control X, Control, all those like Office things. So if you have something highlighted, Control C will copy it. If you go someplace, Control V will paste it. If you highlight something, Control X will get rid of it. Control Z will undo. So if kids are having trouble, you can go to their calculator and Control Z a couple of times, and it'll show you all the steps that they did before. And it will essentially undo them. And then Control Y, you know what Control Y is? That's redo. So Control Z, back, Control Y, forward. So until you save it, you can actually go back in time and then come back to the future. So if I'm trying to debug a kid's calculator, something went wrong, I'll Control Z them back, and then sometimes they get excited and say, no, that was okay. Control Y, that's the step that you messed up. So Control Z and Control Y. Yeah, the Control key is this right here, and then just pick up the alphabet, yeah. And there is a document that I think is on the website. If not, I'll make sure it is, that shows you what these shortcuts are. And I think it's in your software here somewhere too. So house is good. Then if you wanted to do something with documents, like save them or change their name or copy them or whatever, then you'd hit the document button. And then if you want to go to the next page, you hit this blue, I guess it's blue, whatever color it is, but it's sort of like off. It's not on the key. So to do that, you have to hit the Control key. And so when you hit the Control key, it gives you the stuff that's like above or to the side that, is sort of like on the TI-84 or TI-83, they had that second key. And so Control right will get you to the next page. Control left will go back if you're not on the first page already. I mean, if you were, yeah. So Control left goes back, Control right goes forward. Control up will actually send you to show you all the pages. And then Control down will get you back, or if you get on a particular page, if you just press Enter, it'll send you to that. So one of the things that you can see here with this calculator is that you can have different pages. So page 1, page 2, page 3. And you can actually have different problems within a document, which for you computer programmers, it's you isolate the variables. So if you had a variable called distance and you didn't want to use it anymore, but you did want to keep it, you could just make another problem, and then it doesn't know what distance means. The Scratchpad is one of the features of the new software where kids can go and do some math with a calculator or do some graphing with a grapher, and it won't be part of the document unless you want it to be. Now, I don't use it because I would like the kids to share with me everything that they do. But I know a lot of people, a lot of kids are scared. They won't write down anything on the paper until it's exactly right. But if you gave them a place that's like safe and nobody'd ever look at, then they could just do some stuff and then say, okay, now I know what to write. And so it's like a safe place. There is an option for you to save that into the document if you choose to, but that's pretty much up to the kid. Okay. And then escape and undo. So escape, as we talked about, will get you out of some problem that you have, or just out of, it's not a problem, it's just like, I don't want to do that anymore. And then control escape is an undo, which is the control Z. So it's just two ways to get. And with most technology, there's like two different ways to do stuff. I always like to do workshops because teachers will tell me, well, you could also do it that way. And I say, well, I didn't know that. So that's cool, so I know which way. But I also have been in sessions where teachers get all upset because they say, well, no, but we're going to do it this way. And so I know what kind of teacher they are. All right, so second, functions are accessed by the control button. So the second is an old historical note, and there's just a different color there. Okay, so this calculator has 6.5 apps on it. Apps from your phone, okay? So one of the apps is a notepad, a word processor. Now, Arkansas does what you guys do, but like 3 years later. And so we have an end-of-course algebra test, an end-of-course biology test, an end-of-course geometry test, an end-of-course literacy test, an end-of-course whatever. And we find that kids that aren't successful on those end-of-course tests fail the written part. That is, half of the grade comes from open response. I understand Texas doesn't do that anymore. You don't have open response. It's all multiple guess all the way. Okay. And so you guys will focus on vocabulary. And in Texas, a lot, I've seen teachers use the word processor to write some, here's the SAT, here's the theory, here's the definitions. But then they have the kids highlight the words that they think are key words. So as you can see from this word processor, you can put things in bold. Okay. And it's just a word processor, notes. So if you saw that menu before, you could have put in a notes page. And matter of fact, with all my kids, with all my lessons, the kids generally start with a blank sheet, a blank document, and the first sheet is, who are you and what are you doing to me? Okay. Okay. Another app.
How do you get to those apps?
Well, when you go to the house, down at the bottom, they're all lined up. So you can tab around or use your mouse, and when you hover over them, it tells you what they are. And we will actually go through each of them here in a second. So she's talking about that she went to house and number 2, my documents, and she found a whole bunch of files. So TI has, she got the idea from a friend. Okay. So it helps to collaborate. And so in your calculator, when you buy it or when they get it, unless somebody deletes it, it's got a bunch of examples that will teach you how to do stuff. And so they're very well written, and it's a good way for you to spend some time. Generally, I don't use them too much because my kids are pretty tech savvy, and I know a little bit about it. But for starting from scratch, they're great files, and pretty much they're very descriptive. And I don't know if they were on my machine, but I'll take a look at them here in a minute. Okay. So just hang on for a second, and we'll go through each of these and let you play with them for a second. But if you want to work ahead, that's fine. So a second one is a calculator. Somebody probably told you that this is the Inspire calculator. I think the official vocabulary is handheld. Okay, and so you would expect that you'd have a calculator on a calculator, right, or on a handheld. And so there's a calculator, and so you can do calculations. Now these two screens look kind of similar. And one of the things that kids have problems with is like, where am I at? Am I in a word processor? Am I in a calculator or whatever? And there's no symbol up here to tell you. It just tells you what page number and what problem number. This is page 3 of problem 1. Okay. And then the calculator has a little thing here saying that you got 7 of 7 lines in, whereas this doesn't have anything at the bottom. That's one way to tell, but it's kind of subtle. You know, like you'll have the kid who says, you got your hair cut, right? But 90% of the kids don't ever say that. They don't recognize. So you got that kid that's observant. But most kids aren't observant. So there's a button called menu, and if you press menu, it sort of helps you understand where you're at. Because, for example, if I hit menu and there's an option to change the font, I bet I'm not in the calculator. But if I hit menu and there's a calculus button, I bet I'm in the... Okay. So... Okay, sorry, double-clicked. Okay, so here are the other apps. There's one called Graphs, where you can graph stuff. So just like on your calculator, y equals, put in a function, and then set your window and graph it. Okay. You have a geometry thing where you can draw stuff, and this is one of the things that you'll find from the TI-Nspire website, which is linked on the webpage for you. They have these little action consequence documents, and you'll get to see a couple of those today. And basically the kids, you know, move stuff around and see what happens. They're like Java applets on your calculator. And so, but they're a little bit more in the sense that some of them can be written to collect data. So as you move things, the data is dumped into a spreadsheet. And so you can have a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet. Now the spreadsheet's compatible in that you can take stuff from Excel and dump it in there, or you can take this stuff and dump it into Excel. Okay. You need to do it through the computer, but I can take your file into my computer and take your data and stick it into Excel, or I could take your file into my computer and send it out to everybody else through this cable stuff. And then you have a data and stat, which is based on the Phantom software from Key Curriculum, and is a good place to do quick graphs and do some statistics and stuff, and we're going to use that today rather than the traditional this one. And then the 0.5 app is data collection. So you'll notice that in this case, there's a data collection bar at the bottom, and that's an app that allows when you plug in a probe, like when you plug in your motion detector, it pretty much automatically launches. Sometimes it asks you, where do you want to see this? Sometimes it doesn't. And you can see that this must be a motion detector that is measuring 1.8 meters away. Over here, I've got a temperature probe that's measuring the temperature. Okay. And it depends on, you know, this is in graphs and this is in data and stats, so that bar can appear in different places depending on what you choose to do, and we'll sort of play with that in a minute. Okay, so those are the 6.5 apps that are there. So in terms of inquiry-based science, I have my kids decide, well, what would you put, you know, to show what you're doing? And occasionally I'll give them a shell, which could be what I'm going to give you, with some questions, and then some animations, and then we do the experiment. You can create questions using the teacher software, and I'll show you how to do that. You will see some before you do that, but I'll show you how to do that. And that's one thing that you all might want to do. One of the things that she suggested was that you say things to me, which you're not. Well, you did. And that the reason is, like, I know it, but I think that other people in the room or people who are watching this in December might like to know it. All right, so if you hit House, this is the home screen. And what I said is that you could sort of tab around, and it turns out that you can use the keypad on the smartboard or on your computer to do this, or you can use this keypad. And you'll notice that by pressing tab, it got red. And so whatever I touch, okay, so you can do that, or you can just move the mouse to things that you want. And so, for example, if I wanted a new document, I could press 1, or I could tab over and press enter, or I could move my mouse and point and click. Okay. Now, I will say that click and enter are not always the same. So sometimes click is the same as enter, and sometimes enter is the same as click, but sometimes enter won't get it, it's got to be a click, and sometimes click won't get it, it's got to be enter. Do you know when you double click on the computer? Okay, but you know, like in what, you know, where do you do that at? I mean, if you're in a new place and so you're wanting to do something, do you know whether you're supposed to single click or double click? Yeah, exactly. For example, yeah, my wife's a Mac person. She said, "What do you mean this double click you keep speaking of?" And so the way that you learn that is that a single click doesn't do it. So like I'm talking to my mom and I said double click, and she clicked, and then she clicked again and says, "Okay, I double clicked." And I said, "No, it's got to be like click click. It's not like click click." Okay. So we're doing classroom sets. So when second period gets done and third period comes in, then the kids say, okay, I want you to open up a new document. And when they do that, it says, you got a document that says Rader's Rule. Do you want to save it? And I tell the kids, well, they didn't save it, right? They didn't send it in. So, you know, say no and make them do it again. Or if you're kind, if you know who that person is, you can save it for it. So you get if you'd already started something or opened up something, then you'd be challenged. But otherwise, you get what I got. And then you get to choose an app. Now, if you get excited and say, oh, no, go away, then how do you choose an app? Not a rhetorical question. I'll hold up a yellow sign. Answer this question.
Is that those things going across the bottom row here?
Well, yeah, you could go back to House and then choose which one is Notes. What do you think? Which one's Notes? And when you hover over it, it does tell you, but that is Notes. If it's not, you know, you could do Control Z, right? And that undoes it. So if you screw up, you can do Control Z. The other way to do it is to press Menu. And so if you press Menu, it says, oh, that's that thing that was up before. Now up here, you can do stuff that the kids can't do. And so I could insert probably Notespad using that keyboard. But what's the benefit of that if the kids can't do it? So if you're going to model it, why don't you do what they do? Okay, so I want a Notespad, which I probably would have ranked first. And so what I want you to do is write your name, the date of today, and what's going on your calculator. Okay, you know, there's three types of kids. There's the visual and the auditory and the... Okay, you're not talking to me anymore? Okay. The visual, the auditory, and the kids that won't pass your class. So I said what to do, but then somebody says, well, why don't you write it up here so I can see what you want me to do? Now, you'll notice that I used uppercase, that I used punctuation. There's a shift button. And this will be one of the first questions your kids will ask you when you ask them to type something in, like their name. They'll say, well, what was the first question? Where's the hyphen? And then so that control book has a whole bunch of symbols for you. There's some other symbols at other places, so that's cool. And then the other question is, how do you make a capital? How do you get to the next line? Enter. Okay, that's cool. They're probably pretty good with that.
How do you go back?
Oh, it's a delete key right here.
I don't want to delete it all.
No, you're not going to delete that one letter.
It's like a backspace.
Oh, where it says delete clear?
Well, you can use the arrows to go without deleting, and then the delete key is a hard backspace. But you can also, with your mouse, you can click to different parts of the environment, and then when your mouse is active, you can click to move your cursor to other places. But you could also Control Z, and what's Control Z do?
Undo.
So you can actually Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and it'll actually undo all your writing. And what's really cool is to freak out a kid who wasn't paying attention and Control Z their whole page, and they say, Mr. Young, you just wiped me out. And then I do Control Y, Control Y, Control Y, Control Y, and it comes all back. Okay, now I told you that I see a lot of teachers in Texas using this. They'll copy from some document, and they'll paste it into the computer. And I apologize for you people who are smartboard geeks. And so, for example, I might take this theory here from this lesson, and I might copy it, and I might go to my Inspire, and in a notes page, paste it. And so what I did is I just copied from the resources from my book or whatever, from the TEKs, put in, should you put the TEKs in the lesson? Should the kids write it from scratch? Do you have them write the TEKs for everything you do? Do you put it up on the board first? Well, you could put it in a blank document and send it to the kids and say, this is the TEKs we're going to do today, and then maybe at the end ask them, how did we address that? Did you see it? Because, I shot it at you. Did you catch it? Yes, ma'am.
When you're actually doing what you just did, you actually hook this to your computer, and then you put it on there, and then they can see it. That's how it goes.
And in a few minutes, I'll send you a file and model that, and then you'll have an opportunity to try that.
So as long as it's hooked up to yours first, and then it goes to
Yeah. So with the computer, I can do lots of stuff. Then once it's set up, I can blast it to you, and it takes like no time at all.
Okay.
The thing that she noted is on the keyboard down here. This is not a QWERTY keyboard. And they did that consciously so that you could use this on certain assessments. Because like the SAT, you're not allowed to have a QWERTY keyboard because they think you'll type in the questions, which is like so old school, is that you don't think a kid could type in their phone faster than anything. And phones don't have QWERTY keyboards, do they? Or I guess smartphones do. But anyway, so I could copy and paste stuff. Now I put way too much stuff on this page. And so you can see this bar here. And so what I would do is I would pick up some of it and I would cut it, Control X, and then I would introduce a new page. I'll just do it with the house. And then over here, what's paste?
Oh, Control V.
Okay, Control. And so I'll chunk it into pages where pretty much, the kids will see one page of information. And that way, if I have a whole bunch of stuff I want to give them, I parse it out in smaller doses, which helps their immediate gratification. You know how all the kids just tell me what it is right now, or the 60 images every 15 seconds that they need. So give them a short page. But the point being that I can take parts of this now. So I sort of obliterated that, but the point being is, can you highlight something? Okay, so you want me to do it again? Okay, so I put my cursor where I want to be. I can do that by left, 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 up, 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 or I can just click on it. Now I hold down Shift, and then I move my cursor over it. Okay. So you hold down Shift and then right, 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 or if you're a lefty, left, 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 left. And you can go back a little bit. Maybe, if I can do this. I'm not very smartboard worthy. So for the thing that you have, you can highlight something, right? Now, once you've highlighted it, you can change it to another style. So if you press Menu, what do you see? So we have Format. Actions doesn't seem to be available. Insert. MathBox doesn't seem to be available. And Calculations. But if you Format, you can make this say bold. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to bold the most important piece of information on your page. So go to line 1, line 2, or line 3 and highlight whichever you think is the most important and make it bold. So I think in this page that the most important thing on this page is that conservation laws. So to bold something, you can choose bold and start typing. Or you can type and then highlight and then make it bold. Now, how do you unbold? Well, undo would be one way. On the computer, Control B makes it bold, and then Control B makes it unbold. So you could do it that way. But undo is great, except you may undo something you don't want to undo. But Control Y will redo the undo that you didn't want to do when you undid the thing that you did. Okay, so the second most important thing on your page, I'd like you to underline. If you remember under menu, there was an opportunity for you to underline something, right? So you could choose to choose underline and type it again, or you could highlight it and then do that. Now, so if I send a document with some basic background information for the lab, I might ask the kids to bold the words that are important and underline the ones that are kind of pseudo-important. Now, you can change the font on this to be small, medium, and large. And I saw just yesterday for the first time that somebody had chosen small font. And so when they wrote, they could get a whole bunch more information on a screen. Okay, now I have all this gibberish up here. If I hit escape, then it goes away. And it puts me back in a safe place. If I want to change page numbers, I can go up here with my mouse and click the button. Or if I wanted to jump a page, which doesn't make sense here because of juxtaposition. But if I was on this page and I wanted to jump on that page, I could click with my mouse. Or remember the Control left and Control right. So in this case, I'll go ahead and put in the information so you can see how I did it. Okay, so here are my answers to the question. Obviously, the most important is I'm getting free stuff. And the second most important is me, according to my mama. My sister is most important. And so, and the other stuff is not as important. Okay? So it might be you bold stuff that, like, I don't know, and you underline stuff that you do know. Or it might be you underline stuff that I think is important, and you bold stuff that I think is important, and then you underline stuff that requires some explanation or whatever. So having the kids go through that with this document, by stuff that you sent, it is a little hard for them to write a lot, but again, they have the flying thumbs. So don't try to compare your ability to write with theirs. Okay? I do want them to use uppercase, and I do want them to use periods and complete sentences. And so when I says, I see you, with only 3 characters, right? I said, let's try it the other way. And it doesn't hurt them to do that. They can do it. They just forget because they think they're on their cell phone. And just 1 or 2 times, and then they'll write for full sentences for you. And that helps because it helps you understand what they think they understand. Okay, so that's one of the 6.5 apps, and we have 9 minutes to do the other 4. Okay. So Control I is another way to put in a page, Control I. So if I do Control I, it will say, hey, what do you want now? And so maybe a calculator. And so now I'm in a calculator mode. You can see that little bar I spoke of before. And if you hit menu, you don't get that font and template and other things, right? Okay. Now there's this. The research shows that you need 50 to 100 hours of training before you can get anything effectively changed in your classroom. This is a powerful machine. I'm on a listserv where people talk about what they did with the Nspire, and I said, wow, I didn't even know you could do that. Every day, every email almost. It's just like, well, so I disrespected the notes page. But you know the notes page now. You know there's a menu, you can choose some weapons. And y'all said template before. Wonder what template does. Wonder if I'd want to use template. Whatever. Okay, same thing with the calculator. Calculator's killer. TI-89, Voyage 200, You know, those calculators, TI Interactive, it's got that, well, it doesn't have the computer algebra system in it, but it does have good calculator stuff. So let me show you how to put in a comment. So under menu, there maybe is an action that would allow you to insert a comment. What do you think?
Yeah, number 6.
Okay. Should I go down and press enter, or should I press 6?
Shouldn't be able to just press 6.
Okay. And so for my kids here, if I press 6, they see me do it, and they see it jump down, but maybe not. Now, since I know this symbol means it's going to be a comment on the calculator page, I could just go to that list of symbols, which was what, Control Book, and pick it up, or, you know, Control Copy it and paste it or whatever. So write in the formula for momentum. Now, since it's a comment, it's not going to try to calculate anything. It's sort of like just a little note in the document. So the question that should be coming pretty soon is, what's momentum, or where's the equal sign? Okay. And so it turns out that P equals M times V. And I will warn you that with this calculator, you don't want to use juxtaposition to imply multiplication. That is, you can have variables called MV. And so if you want to mean MV, you mean M times V, or do you mean this thing called MV? Okay. But you could, if you wanted anybody to understand, I spelled it right. Is this viscosity or velocity? See, I was just seeing if you're listening. Okay, so would you write that, or would you do E equals M times V, and it would be, I guess, depend in part whether we're just talking about momentum for the very first time in your life. Yes, ma'am.
If you were to put words in there, is it also possible to put the symbol beside it so you can kill two birds in one stone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I might do is just continue the thought. And even though I could write MV here and nobody'd ever know the difference, I do need my kids to know that when they use this calculator, they'd better put a multiplication between the letters. So I'm just trying to underscore that by modeling the behavior they'll need to have. And so I think I like this too, that we put both ways down. Okay. So those kids that don't quite get what a variable is yet, you get those? Well, you can't do the 4x4 without getting kids in physics now that never would have come to physics before. Same thing with the math. You can't require everybody to have algebra without getting kids who don't know how to do algebra. Used to be that when I went to school, you took consumer math or business math or farm math or shop math, or you took the algebra if you're going to go to college. And so everybody that came into my class as an Algebra 1 teacher, they knew what a variable was. Now, I get the unwashed masses. They just come in. They just like, 45, shut the door. Okay? Teach them what a variable is. Except the problem is that all the other times I taught algebra, they knew what a variable was, and I didn't realize till the third year that, oh, I guess I better teach them what a variable is because they don't seem to know. So anyway, if you press enter, nothing will particularly happen, but there'll be a note. So one of the things that you want to teach your kids is if they are doing calculations here, they might want to pause occasionally and put a comment. Okay? Now that I know the mass, and now that I know the velocity, I can calculate the momentum. So let's just say if I roll this cart like that, let me try it again. If I roll this cart like that, okay, go ahead and type in what you think the momentum would be. You're going to do the calculation. So I want to know the momentum, so I probably won't put that in, right? And the equal sign will happen when I press enter. So I want the mass, so what are you thinking? Kilograms? Okay, 500 grams. Y'all believe in SI down this way? Okay, So don't be putting 500 grams in there. If you think it's 500 grams, you put in half a kilogram. Okay? And the version of the calculator you have does not allow for units, but this calculator does, but I'm not going to do it just to not so you won't get upset. Rob says don't show you stuff that you can't see. And then you saw me. What do you think his velocity was? Assuming it's frictionless, right? So when I pushed it, it was rolling, and it would keep rolling like that forever until it hit the end of the table. We think 100 miles per hour? 7 miles per hour. How fast can you walk? Oh, you're throwing that SI stuff at me. Okay, sorry. I got to get in the science world. Out in the street, you go down and say, I'm walking 3 meters a second. They're going to say, put that in miles per hour, right? Okay, so I think I could get my kids to tell me that that cart was moving a slow walk, which they might know, if they're walkers, that they can walk, what, 10 miles an hour when they're booking it. But if they're just doing the mall stroll, okay, showing off their stuff, okay, then maybe it's more like 3 miles per hour, 2 miles per hour. Does that do me any good? Does anybody know what 100 miles per hour is in meters per second? And why not? I mean, I know the thing about milliliters. Why don't you know about miles per hour? And everybody knows miles per hour is 60 miles per hour is, okay, we don't. Well, measurement's all in the eye of the beholder. If you don't know this is about a meter, then if I talk meters, you don't know what I'm talking about, right? So if you're going to use meters per second, they've got to have some kind of hook. Where do you hook them? Okay. Well, we can't go on with that, but what do you think? Meter per second? Tenth of a meter per second? Half a meter per second? Okay, nobody's a meter per second, everybody's less? Okay, so we'll do... Okay? So this calculator has pretty print, so if you're doing like Kepler's laws, you don't have to fake it, you can do the real thing. Control divide gives you the fraction. See the control divide? It's got a little... Huh?
Does it have to be a fraction?
Well, he said a half, so I'm thinking...
Okay. What about 0.5?
If he'd said 0.5, I would have gone that way. But he said a half, so I wanted to respect him. And it turns out that you know that what he said is 0.5. I'm not sure he knows that. I mean, I do know that he knows that, but I'm just saying that, if a kid says a half and you type in 0.5, they're saying, what? Why wouldn't you take his answer? I mean, he put himself out and he gave this number and you're just disrespecting him by putting in another number. Okay. All right. And then... Okay, and I want to show you that you can make fractions on this baby. Okay, so I have an alternative motive too, and I really didn't want to do the 10 o'clock thing. So, okay. All right. So, and then if I press enter, anybody know what 0.5 times a half is? Without looking. Okay. So its momentum is a half, a quarter. I'll just cheat and copy this. Maybe not. I can't copy the whole thing, so I'll just do it again, I guess. Go to Menu and Actions and insert a comment and say, so the momentum is 1/4. What is that, joules? Okay, so kg times or hyphen or, okay, and meters per second. Okay. So, just to underscore, like, what'd you find out? So, did you think that, I guess, momentum is sort of like a measure of what? You know what the definition of matter is? Yeah. So it seems like inertia comes in there somewhere. The ability of an object to keep doing its thing, or yeah. So the momentum is like it's doing its thing, and it's got some internal intestinal fortitude about doing its thing, and its thing is 1/4 of a kilogram meters per second. Doesn't seem like it really. I mean, I could easily stop it. As opposed to what's the momentum of a bullet. Now, I can compare that cart just sort of strolling down the mall to a bullet and think about like, okay, so where's momentum play into it? Well, it's basically like, what kind of stuff would I need to stop it from doing its thing, right? But bullet, because it's got a whole bunch more momentum, and if I wanted to, I could ask you to calculate what you think the momentum of a bullet would be. And then you can just compare the numbers, because a bullet is like way, 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 way less massive than that car. But the other number is way, 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 way more. Now, the question I could ask, which I won't because we're running out of time, is what's the kinetic energy of that car? Now, you take a half and square it. Actually, shouldn't it be a negative a half? Because we were going this way, going west, because the prime meridian's over there. And so all the motion away from the origin is negative. So this momentum is actually negative from frame of reference. But take negative 1/2 and square it, it's actually kind of an anomaly in physics, like, you know, when water freezes, it expands. Anomaly in chemistry, and our anomaly is when you divide by 0, it gets really, really big. But nobody, the math people think you can't do that. But we turn a black light on and lock the doors, and we divide by 0 all the time. Okay. All right, so anyway, if you took a half and squared it, you get 1/4, a smaller number, times that bigger mass. But I don't know, what do you think, a million kilometers per second, a bullet? Take 1,000,000 and square it, and what happens? 600 meters per second, so 600 squared. You can do it on your computer. Yeah, and even though you multiply that times the smaller mass for the kinetic energy, it half a kilogram is chump change for multiplying times this number. Okay. So so I did power, so you can do power in your calculator. What if it was 1,000,000? What's 1,000,000 squared? If you squared 1,000,000, would you have the national debt? Not that I want it. Oh, wait a minute, I got it. Never mind. Okay, so we got our calculator, we got our notes pad. Let me go ahead and look at Spreadsheet, but I'm going to do that by sending you a file. So I'm going to go to Connect to Class, and I'm going to begin the class. And when you come and plug in a second, you're going to either be prompted to log in, or you're going to need to get yourself prompted. Okay? So does your mama get you up in the morning to go to school, or do you get yourself up? I do, get myself up. Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, it doesn't matter. My mom lives in Seattle. She occasionally gives me a call and says, "You up, ready to school?" Yeah, let's see. Go back to sleep, Mom. So let me show you on the model here, if I can find it, that if I go to House and press number 5, then I get these options, and number 5 is the login option. So you'll log in with your 3 initials, and then your password. What did you put in for your password? You didn't put anything in, so what that means is that the first time you log in, whatever you put in will be your password. Okay, it's not high security or anything, but okay, so come up, plug in, get yourself logged in, and I'll send you a file.